lot of good work out there today. Worked for almost 2 straight hours of really, really good football. I got excited earlier in the week because I saw the conditions and I knew this was going to be very similar to like our Michigan State game. That was a game that really was unprecedented for me, the amount of volume of wind and everything. So really good work for us out there today. Really came out pretty clean too. A couple guys nicks and injuries, but we pulled some of our major guys out, like 2 old linemen, Isaiah and Julian, and on offense, Isaiah Williams, and on defense, we pulled Johnny and Keith after that early down work, and then got a lot of really good work with the young guys. Obviously, new quarterbacks, would love to have given those guys a little better conditions to go out there and throw it around, but a lot of really good work for us to learn off of. Really did all situational work, did early downs, did third down, did red area, did live kicking with the field goal and punt units. Just had a good field goal rally there at the end. I think both of our kickers made 57-yarders right there at the end. So in these wind conditions, pretty amazing. But other than that, open it up.
All things considered, what did you see from the quarterbacks?
From the quarterbacks, really, this is practice number 6. On Tuesday we had a really good day. It was the first day we were out on the field. We did red area for practice 1 through 3. So the Tuesday practice was probably their best day overall. Thursday was okay, and then today just really obviously tough weather conditions, but they're picking it up. Coach Lunny has had great rapport in that room. Is continue to see those guys grow. I think they interact with their other players really well, which for me as a head coach, that's what I'm really looking at. They're picking things up and understanding how we play here.
What have you liked about Josh Geske so far in the spring?
Geske's had a really good spring. He's kind of popped around. We're playing him at right tackle, but probably has guard value as well. Has totally kind of changed his body. Tony Pashos actually has worked with him quite a bit. It's kind of fun to see his demeanor grow. So he goes and works out with Tony during his breaks and has really done a great job. And then obviously the development in our weight room and with Coach Miller on the offensive line, it's been fun to watch this kid grow, and I think he's got a bright future.
You had the high school coaches in this weekend.
Yeah.
Just how'd they go? What do you think? I mean, I know that's a big deal for you.
Yeah, I know Thursday night we always host an event over here. I think last year we maybe in our team meeting room it wasn't even full. I know this year we had 200 people waiting outside. I think there was over 250 people here and over 500 in general. But I've constantly made a point to these guys how much Illinois football matters to us. I said this stat the other day. I didn't even realize. I know it had been skewed. You guys that follow us, prior to me coming here, the 2 years prior, they had signed 3 players from the state of Illinois. Illinois had, and we've signed 23 in the last 2 years. So 20 more players over the last 2 years, and we hopefully have put ourselves in a good position here with our Illinois coaches. And this weekend was just another step.
You lose a guy like an All-American running back like Chase Brown. You've had that before.
Yeah.
What's the dynamic as a coaching staff and just as an offense to try and turn a page?
It's very unusual because like even Reggie and Josh would probably be our heir apparents, right? They missed significant time last year too, and that's why Chase had to have some of those workload days he did. So it was really kind of an outlier for me because usually we use 2 to 3 running backs overall, and want to get to that. I was excited to watch our young guys run today. Obviously Jordan Anderson and Aiden, this is their second spring with us, which is a big difference. And to be quite honest, Caden has been very impressive, just the way he's picked things up, and physically he's obviously a very gifted athlete. So, we did want to establish our demeanor in the run game. I think today all those guys kind of had some good runs. Wasn't really a breakout run, but the defense just a little bit ahead of where we are right now.
I mean, that looked like it's spearheaded by the defensive front. They've been kind of everything maybe thought that they would be.
Johnny and Keith, we took them out pretty early, right? So I was kind of been waiting to see how these other guys. So a guy that's really stood out, Seth McConnell, has had probably as good a fall and spring as we could hope. I told him going into that first practice, nobody was more excited than our coaches to watch him play. A new addition of a couple other defensive linemen into the mix. T-Rod we got a year ago, right? And a couple other guys that Kurt's had a really good offseason and a good spring for us so far. And then our ends, that outside linebacker room, truly might be one of the most talented groups I've ever had at that position. And I think they continue to show up.
Kind of mixing and matching some DBs back there, the safeties especially. What are you guys seeing out of that? Like, are you getting a lot?
Xavier Scott really had a great finish to the year last year, and he's continued to grow, physically change. So that's there. Prince and a couple of those guys in that class have continued. T. Strain has had a really good spring for us, and then new additions. Obviously, brought in Nicario Harper, who's been at a couple different schools, and Nicario has really jumped out to us just athletically. He's learning how we do things here and the way we do things. I think today was another good step for him in the right direction.
And then what looks like another potential breakout
KO?
kid.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him?
Kanana is a very, classic story too. I told the coaches last night. Really, Coach Lynch, his coach in high school, was like I remember I called him and he's like, "Hey, I got this guy. I believe he's going to an Ivy school, right? But I think he's a player here, and he's just, not quite, the height that everybody wants." And I said, I always think about this. I was a linebacker coach at Iowa for Kirk. We had a linebacker visit that was. We thought he was going to be 6 foot. He was 5'10" and a half, and Kirk made a comment to me. He said that, when he makes a tackle, have you ever had anybody announce their height? They just usually call their name, and that always sticks out to me because I've had a lot of undersized linebackers who play with great heartbeats and great speed, and Kanana is an incredibly gifted athlete, but he's also very intelligent, and at that position, to have the versatility that he does is a very, very good trait. And yeah, he's had a great spring. I'm excited to see him continue to grow.
Coach, when you're building that program, there's third trial for you. How important is year 3? I mean, going back to your first couple of times, how important is?
I get the question, but they're all important, right?
Okay.
In this day and age that we're in right now, for us to build this program, I think we got to continue to take steps forward. I know in my coaching career, my third year at Wisconsin was probably my most difficult, but one of the most learning, right? My third year at Arkansas was probably our best year that we, could see the rewards of what we had going. So year 3 for me is big because I've learned from my past experiences, but also, it's a different world now with the portal, with the NIL, the dynamics of all that. Scheduling the last 2 years, we've had 2 bye weeks. This year we don't have a bye week until really the back half of the season, right? So there's a lot of different dynamics in the season, but it's one that I'm excited for. I think our coaches, I do know this, we're 6 practices in and we won every practice, right? We haven't had a practice that has set us back or anybody that hasn't, I don't think, walked off the field feeling we got better. So as long, I told our guys, we got 15 practices. If we can walk off that field 15 times, feeling good about the growth we've made, that's what we can control and that's what we'll do. And I think we've done that so far.
What are your thoughts on Kreutz and Barlev at center?
Kreutz and Barlev?
Yeah, what you've gotten out of them?
Kreutz in particular, right, has just continued to be very impressive. Really tough football player, really high football IQ, intelligence. I think Bart would even tell you last year, he probably knew the offense as good as anybody and how you got to handle that up front. He's got it in his DNA, obviously. He's been watching the center position for his whole life, and I'm sure he gets coached on a home phone call tonight as well. But really impressed with Josh and what he's done. Barlev is probably another guy like Geske, has really kind of changed his body and continued to grow. And, he's truly an inside player, guard to center, and doing a little bit more center work for us. But I'm excited. He's continued to take steps forward and take the challenges that we've given him.
I have a depth chart question, but when Zai comes back, do you anticipate him staying at guard or moving outside?
Zai's in his rehab program and is doing awesome with that. The versatility that Zai brings is not just guard tackle, but left to right as well. So we'll put our best 5 players when we go to play Toledo. We'll have our best 5 out there.
Aaron mentioned speed on defense has really stood out to him. Speed and length is kind of what you guys are working towards, right? Like in recruiting.
Yeah, I think when people watch us, right, they come out and they're just like, wow, you guys are really long. The speed does show up, but a guy like Tyson Rooks, he was our practice player, defensive MVP of the day the other day, and he just broke up several balls. He's got really incredible length, right, and that allows him to actually, play more than maybe fast, right, and yeah, on the edges in particular, we got good length. Nicario, who we mentioned at safety, he's a really long safety. It's impressive. And Xavier Scott has grown since he's come here, not just weight-wise, but length-wise, and I really like the length that we've recruited, and hopefully that pays off.
You see that? You see the speed there? I mean,
I do. I think we're fast. I mean, we always got to get faster, but I think the game that we're playing in today's world, I think on the perimeter, we obviously play with some bigs up front, but those other guys got to be able to run. I think Tariq, he really is a guy as an inside backer that's jumped out to me, the level of speed and kind of the tempo that he's played at this spring. We limited his reps out there today, but CJ's better. Dylan Rosiak, Kanina obviously can run really, really well. And then in the back end, we've definitely recruited to that demeanor for sure.
I wanted to ask you about Tyree. He told us last week, he said the captaincy last year, he said he wasn't sure that was going to be natural for him.
Right.
What did you see last fall?
Tariq Barnes?
Yeah, what he's done this spring.
You know, Reek's an interesting kid. Like, since I got here, right, a Memphis kid, takes a lot of pride, how he does things, a little bit quiet demeanor. I knew he had good leadership traits, and then when I saw the votes last year, it confirmed what I thought. I think he's a natural, he's a voice of a defense. You're an inside linebacker. He makes all the calls, plays with good demeanor, right? He's a very intense player. I think he's matured a lot in that regards. And, when we had early conversations about coming back for a final year, because I think he could have tested the waters this year. And I just think he's really got a good year ahead of him. And this spring has been definitely an indicator of that as well.
Get one on Tyler Strain. He got those big,
Strain?
Yeah, obviously had a setback going into the Purdue game.
Yeah.
He showed some things.
Yeah.
How big is that for him specifically to build on an opportunity?
Yeah, T. Strain is probably, for me as a head coach, been one of the guys that I've loved to see grow this, over the last year and a half. He came in, we hadn't recruited him, we inherited him, right? He was signed before we got here, but really, you could see early on he had talent, and then really over the last year has just really grown off the field, which you've now seen carry on the field. He was a kid that it was spring break week, and he was driving home, and I missed a phone call from him like 6:30 in the morning. And most players don't call you at 6:30, and I'm like, at first I was a little bit worried, but I got a hold of him, and he just said to Coach, I appreciate all the the coaches have done, right? Like, we really helped him get through some tough moments, and he has really responded. He's an incredibly talented player, plays really smart, has some good vision, very competitive. I think when you talk about how players rub off, I think Spoon was a huge influence on him and the way he handles things, and Taz kind of in the same regards. And then Antonio Finellis is a guy that I recruited that kind of fits his body type, right? Antonio wasn't as tall as everybody wanted, maybe not as fast, but he played a lot of really good football for us at Wisconsin, and I think T. Strain, just naturally has gravitated to some of his coaches that have showed him how he can play, and a lot of good results.
Those defensive backs you had last year that were now going to the NFL, how big of a long-term impact are they having on the guys now? So you see that from them.
Without a doubt, yeah. Like, you could see it just in the way they react, and Spoon's coming back next. I think he's coming in Monday for his pro day on Wednesday, and I know our guys will be all over him, I think Taz is trying to dip into Spoon's Nike contract a little bit. I see him wearing a lot of Nike lately, so that group is really close. I think they went through a lot. When we got in here, we kind of changed what they did in the back end quite a bit. There are a lot of cover 2 teams, and we kind of changed some things around, asked them to do some things maybe they weren't comfortable with, and they're truly getting rewarded now. I think those 3 DBs, I think Sid, Quan, and Spoon are probably going to go a lot higher than people ever thought they would. And the good thing for us as coaches, obviously the bad thing is they're gone. The good thing is we can use them as examples, and they're great examples with the people they've already touched.
Coach, you've invested in